Good morning, everybody. Thank you to the organizers of this symposium. It's a felt need, and it is, well timed. Even though, personally, I think we are jumping on this boat a little behind schedule. These discussions and these incidents in Nigeria, the discussions around GMO should have kicked off 30 or 3 decades ago, because we've been having infiltrations of genetically modified organism into our food system for that long a time. So, as introduced, we're looking at GMOs as agents of colonization tied to agric-led growth and food security. Before I start off, colonialism, as we understand it, is dominating a people or an area, usually by a foreign entity or a foreign authority, and they practice extending and maintaining rule or control over the politics, the economics, and the wherewithal of another country. That is colonialism. For some of us here, yes, we experienced it. We went through it with Nigeria and the British. And I dare say that we have not seen the end of it, because we still see in the corridors some of the impacts and some of the influence still playing out. Now, GMO, you've heard a lot about the definitions, what it is, but just to set the tone again, imagine everyone seated here is an hybrid of some person. You are the hybrid of your mom and your dad. That is hybridization. That is a natural entity meeting another natural entity to give rise to a new one that has both features, good and very good, showing up. There are things that were naturally existing that will be passed on. But with genetically modified organisms, you're now talking about, thank God it's a lady that is beside me. So you look at her, you look at me, and you say you want an offspring or an hybrid that can wrestle without their backs touching the ground, like a cat. I'm sure we all know that cats' backs doesn't touch the ground. That there is that myth that if you throw a cat from a 3-story building, it will always land on 4. I have tried it severally and it proves true. So we want an hybrid offspring that is like a cat in the wrestling ring, whose back will not touch the ground. Then Prof, the researcher, now says, you know what? Let's look in that cat and see that thing that makes it agile. From its genome level, let us take the gene that is responsible for it and let us put it in her. Yes, in her, not me. We'll put it in the woman. Why? Because it is the woman that gives the child body. The man gives the child life. So they will put the genome from the cat in the woman and get us to produce an hybrid that will carry that trait of the cat. The minute they put that genome in the woman, she ceases to be a woman. She has been altered. She has been genetically modified. She's not a woman like the one that naturally existed. What you can now expect from that hybrid offspring, you cannot tell the end of it. Whether it will now be growing up wanting to bite people's head off, like eating rats. After you give the child or the thing rice and beans, he still wants to eat fresh lizard. You can't tell the end of it. That is the concern with GMO. And at the colonization level, I described it as control, pretty much. With our food, we woke up one day in 2021. We were sleeping. And in 2021, we saw a law that, you know, can I have the presentation that I sent? If they can bring it up, I'd love people to follow. So we woke up to learn about certain provisions in this country, our seed law. Nigeria, alongside a lot of African countries, had criminalized, you know, the saving, sharing, or marketing of seeds among neighbors, or, you know, you sell at the local market between or within farmers. Because we want to protect some rights. It is now a criminal offense, in case you did not know, to share seed the way you have known it. You harvest, to replant can be a criminal offense. It can be criminalized according to that law. And that law is in place as we speak. What was it supposed to do? Control. It is supposed to control the playing ground for the economics of genetically modified seeds. The architects of the seed economy, which includes major seed and biotech firms and governments. There are some governments that are sponsoring companies. There are state-sponsored companies, largely from the global north. When I say the global north, I'm talking about the West, the developed countries. They have companies that they are government sponsors, and they have intergovernmental organizations that also support those companies to spread their tentacles because of trade, because of their globalization agendas to penetrate the global south. That is where you have most of those countries that are referred to as developing. In 2021, the global trade regime, the WTO, World Trade Organization, finalized details for a revolution in African agriculture. They've been talking about it for over 30 years, and the trade bodies are now the ones sponsoring. In Africa right now, we have the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, an agreement where we have come together in Africa to say, you know what, we want to be trading amongst ourselves. The situation before that agreement is that I want to buy something that Benin Republic produces. I am not aware in Nigeria that Benin has it. I have to go to Italy to buy it. I get to Italy and I find out that, oh, Italy got it from Benin. Then I will bring it to Nigeria to come and use. We said we didn't want that we want to trade amongst ourselves first in Africa. It is laudable, right? It is the way to go for us to be able to trade amongst ourselves, to reduce wastage and to develop our markets. But that same idea is what some entities that are interested in globalization, they are capitalizing on it. They have shown up at the African Union to say that, you know what, we want to sponsor that your idea. But before we sponsor it, you have to adopt this particular protocol. And that protocol is to change how you do farming in Africa. Is to change your seed laws in Africa. They have come in through that agenda, and with that agenda, through that avenue, as at today, almost every African country, 55 of them, have jumped on that bandwagon. They have received that protocol, and they have passed bills into law in their countries that protects patents on GMO seeds. Now, when we talk about patents on GMO seeds, the effects that you have seen in the previous speakers' videos and slides talked about how it can be cancerous, how it can lead to a lot of health diseases or challenges. The part that we have not looked at is the economics of it, the patenting, the intellectual property. And what that does is, the one who owns the patent or the intellectual property on a seed, what it will say, like the example I gave you, we now have a wrestling champion produced by us, having been genetically modified. And we patent that wrestling champion and say that anything that comes from this champion belongs to us. If you want a wrestling champion like this, we can give you, but you must pay us. So the seeds that we're talking about, or the genetically modified organisms that we're talking about, have patents. There are companies in the global north, in the developed world, that have patented not their own seed. Most of our African seeds bear their patents. That is the ones they want to introduce back to Africa, genetically modified. And what is the modus operandi? You cannot use those seeds without paying. You cannot do anything else with them without approval from the ones that own the patents. So, for example, you know maize as you eat it. If it was raining season, you can get out of there, buy maize, eat. You know where it came from. A farmer planted and possibly harvested and sold out in the market. Now, that farmer, going forward, will receive GMO seed, going by what the government of Nigeria has planned, rolling out GMO seeds. The farmer takes the seed, plants it, gets a harvest that he cannot replant without going back for seed to buy. So the day that the one that supplies seeds wants him to jump high and he doesn't jump, seed is withheld. Seed is withheld from the farmer. So control has come. Colonization is wearing a new mask now, a new face. GMO seed is that face. This is a possibility, and it is the reality. Now we're talking about maize, but in the offing already there is wheat, genetically modified wheat seed. There is genetically modified cowpea, that's beans as we know it. They will come with some label and say this one is rich in iron, iron fortified. It is genetically modified. It is patented. You cannot replant, you cannot reuse in a way that you have not been authorized to, or else farmers will go to jail. Farmers will pay fines. Farmers will be dispossessed of their lands. So the one that feeds us automatically becomes the one that controls us. It tells you how he wants you to live, how he wants you to move. In fact, your life is now 6 hours only in a day. We don't want you working. By 6, everybody go inside and sleep. You don't sleep, you're not eating. For the next 3 months, we hold supply. That is the new face of colonialism, as it were. In recent years, the alliance that, have cunningly worked together to expand and harden intellectual property restriction around seeds came up with the Plant Variety Protection Act. That Plant Variety Protection Act is what has been legalized by most nations in Africa and yours truly in Nigeria. It is a law now that was passed in 2021. They come with mantras like, oh, we want to carry out climate smart agriculture. That's why we're doing this. Every time you hear that, let your flag go up for inquiry. We have farmers that are, commenting. Farmers says, the ones that have experienced it, they tell you that the companies try to entice us, that is the seed companies, by saying that their seeds are better. Then we'll become dependent on seeds that can't be replanted. Our own seeds are from our soil. It is nothing short of colonialism to say what seed people should plant. The seed is the beginning of the food system. The minute you lose control of the seed, you have ceded control to whoever provides you seed. So the thought of having genetically modified, patented seeds be the order of the day should be vehemently and critically refused, critically looked into before we, sign our sovereignty, our food sovereignty to. But in fact, by the time you sign out your food sovereignty, you have signed out your sovereignty as a country. The nation doesn't exist again. So the design of food colonization is pretty simple. Catch the inputs, get the seeds, get the farmers to work the way you want, entrench them in the global trend. Give them seed, give them herbicides, give them pesticides. And you control everything that happens in the nation through food. Remember that the strength of every nation's army, let's say the armed forces, is your might, is your strength. They are the ones that will withstand all enemies, both foreign and domestic. It is your army. But there is that saying that the strength of every army is in their tummy, is their stomach. It is food. It is food. The one that controls your food has your strength. And this is colonialism that we must refuse. We need to look at critically, and we need to take the right step in the right directions to nip it in the bud and go in the direction. In closing, yes, they are passing seeds around to farmers in Nigeria right now. Ask yourself the question, the kind of food shortages, the kind of scarcities that we're having, is it about yield? I'm sure everybody here knows that it's not about yield. It is because farmers cannot go to the farm. There is banditry, there is terrorism everywhere. I checked the map, our maize producing regions in Nigeria, from the south up to the north, from Oyo to the Middle Belt to Benue to Jos, all the way to Borno, Taraba, Adamawa. All of the places where we farm maize in Nigeria is currently under attack. So farmers cannot farm. They can't go to the farm. That is the problem. So if you release GMO seeds now, where would they plant it? In their parlor? Are they going to plant it in their parlor? Solve the insecurity problem. You will see yield. Secondly, I was sharing with Prof a document that was presented this February, about a week ago, by the African Development Bank, to its stakeholders. By the way, African Development Bank, under the guide and leadership of Dr. Akiwumi Adesina, that we so revere, is very GMO inclined. They are very GMO inclined. And as we speak, over almost 200,000 hectares of wheat is under cultivation in Jigawa and some other neighboring states, Kano, Katsina, and the likes. I'm saying over 200 hectares. In some places, close to 500,000, 200,000 hectares.
A beautiful round of applause for Mr. Oluwaseyi Ifelaja. We will come back to you shortly again.
Thank you.
Shortly. Thank you so much.